a little shaky. Maybe we're having an earthquake.
I think I'm just fat and everything moves when I'm near it.
Chef, you can't move a concrete floor. I'm sorry.
Well, I can sure try. Thank you.
Hey everybody, this is Ed and Chris show, doing our ONS thing down in the barrel room. Of course, we are going to virtually taste wine with you because we can't be with you, right? And so this is how we do it when we can't be together. If you can be with us on Thursday nights at 6 p.m., we do 4 wines from around the world every Thursday night so that you can learn what wine tastes like. That might sound silly, but too many of us are buying wines that we've never tasted based on inadequate sources, in my opinion, because there's nobody that tastes like you do as an individual. So the truly only right way to pick a wine is to taste it first. And so that's what we do here. We do 200 wines a year, and I think people like it.
What's not to like, Chef?
Well, then you factor in the
You've
fact...
You've already weeded out the bad ones.
I try to. And in addition to that, Chef Chris prepares a small bite that goes with each wine. Now, for you that have taken home this to-go package, you will have your food pairing to go with the 2 wines, 2 full wines. I mean, 750 ml. Man, you can... Actually, that's a lot of wine.
That's a lot of wine.
That's a lot of wine, and it's.
I'm not for saying us, that's a lot of wine.
We don't really make money on this, but we like to do it. So here we go. That's probably not a good business model, is it?
Well, luckily, it's not the only thing we do.
That's a good point. This is a labor of love, if you will. Chef Chris and I, we sneak out of the dining room in the middle of lunch service often. Sometimes after we've done a 8-course wine dinner and come down here and film at 11 p.m. so that you can have this video to be a companion to your pickup pack.
A light to the path.
Mm-hmm. And so with that being, all the, I guess the formalities are laid out here for you. Now we can just, I'm not going to curse, but
almost did last
chew
time.
The fat. We'll say chew the fat, so we're not shooting the...
Well, that's not really cussing.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is.
For me it is, because I have a strict standard of no cursing except for that one episode.
Whoops.
But it was way into our catalog. It was probably, the 20 or 30th one. It was unbelievable how long it lasted.
Well,
and oh, by the way, you've yet to curse.
I haven't done it yet. And strangely, that was one we did at the house, so I think you were more comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I will say this, that if you've ever spent any time with Chris or I, outside of this little video, we have a potty mouth.
It's a miracle it has not happened.
We have not such a great filter.
Meaning none.
Right. But it comes from a good place.
Oh, I mean, I don't take offense to it. Other people do, but I don't.
Yeah, that's called kitchen life. And also, it didn't help that I was a fireman too, because they cursed like crazy too. And I got a feeling that probably every industry has that in some form or fashion.
I think that's true.
Mm-hmm. So cheers to all you out there saying the bad words.
All you sailors, you potty mouth sailors.
The sailors started it all, I guess. Well, we're off to a delicious start, Chef.
Boy, you're not
kidding. And we're in Stellenbosch. We're a Raats Original Chenin Blanc, also known to many people as Steen. That is the nickname for Chenin Blanc in South Africa, kind of like what they call Syrah, Shiraz. Anyway, it's the grape of Chenin Blanc that is so popular in the Loire Valley. Of course, my sweet mother loves Vouvrays, and Chris and I use Vouvrays constantly at the chef's table because they're with these complex dishes that chef creates. Vouvrays really fit in well with your style. So this is not a Vouvray, because Vouvray is a place, but it is a Chenin Blanc, and Vouvray is a Chenin Blanc. So the classic French varietal, which seems to me that, I mean, I haven't been to South Africa, but I plan on it. If my buddy Andy helps me, I'm going to get there.
I bet he can facilitate that.
That would be, yeah. I get wanting to go over there for safaris, but I want to go over there for the wineries and the food. So with that,
your passport.
I got my passport.
No
ready to roll.
excuse. Get on the plane.
But what I really love about wine is that I feel like I've traveled to South Africa 100 times because of all the great wines that we've had from South Africa. Now, this is not one of Andy's wines, but this is a wine from South Africa. We do have when I'm talking about Andy, I'm talking about an importer that specializes in South African wines, and he has hooked us up big time. We even did a wine dinner with him with a bunch of wines that were just, I mean, over the top delicious. So we feel like, and of course, yeah, when you have someone come and do a story about where he's from and his wineries and stuff, you feel like you've been there.
Well, and I would say too, because there's been so many South African wines over the past few months, you're always studying the topography, the
Right.
geography, the towns, what comes from there, and what's the traditions. And so you really immersing yourself
Right.
into the culture, even though it's a wine-based thing, wine is culture. And so you're learning so much about that area and how
Sure.
diverse it is. And
Traveling through the bottle, if you will.
absolutely.
And Chef, when you did do that South African wine dinner, you still did your style of food, but you used ingredients and spices that would reflect techniques that would kind of emulate their styles, but still keeping true to your own particular style. It was really great.
I enjoyed
fusion.
researching that, and I feel like I honored the traditions without trying to be cheesy. Andy seemed to like it, and of course he loves. He grew up with that cuisine, so he seemed pleased. So that my intention is always to honor a place without, even if I don't replicate.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, that's just part of the fun.
Yeah. So this is from Raats, a great producer of all things, what I would say, I guess you can say South Africa, but I mean, obviously this grape is originally dating back from France, but oftentimes when we're thinking about South African wines, we are thinking about French varietals historically, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely.
And then, of course, you look at even their own national grape of Pinotage is a cross of two French grapes, Pinot Noir and Cinsault. And so it's French all over the place. And of course, that's probably part of the reason why I love these wines is because you know how much I love French varietals as well as you love French varietals.
They've
actually
the juice speaks for itself.
It really does. And we actually just stepped down from the chef's table. We just did a multi-course chef's table lunch for 4 people that we were really pleased to interact with and talk about. And we were talking about Bordeaux blends. And
so much fun,
Yeah, and Bordeaux blends are really popular down this area, and standalone single varietals like this, 100% Chenin Blanc. So what we have here is something that would be expected. This style, this is not going to be a sweet style, which Chenin Blanc, and particularly in Vouvray, can have all sorts of different residual sugar levels, from bone dry to practically dessert wines and even bubbles. So it reminds me a lot of Riesling in Germany, where it can be a wide range of sweetness. That's the way Chenin Blanc can be in Vouvray. But typically, I would say you would expect in South Africa to have dry Chenins. And of course, Chef Chris and I, that's kind of where we live, because it's the food that we're serving goes best with dry wines. And when we have a food that requires something with some residual sugar in it, that's when I would say that is not the norm. It's more of the exception.
Yes, but boy, you find some really cool sweet wines, like some of those sparkling reds from Di Marie, and that beautiful yellow cap we had with Scott the other day, several times.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're always finding sweet wines with more sugar,
with character.
Tons of character and playfulness. They're not Kool-Aid with alcohol.
Right.
I mean, they're really complex wines, and they're fun to approach and learn about and drink.
I'm sure that there's got to be somebody down in South Africa making make a Vouvray on the sweeter side style of Chenin Blanc, if you will. And maybe I can track one of those down just for point of contrast.
Yeah, I mean, just to say, but they're doing everything. They've got to. Somebody's got to.
You know they are. So this is the hallmark of this wine that we are enjoying, and I hope you're enjoying it along with us. Of course, it is a very light, kind of straw yellow here. It's very clear. It's not what I would say, dense in color, dense in weight. It's pretty lean, pretty bright. The acid levels are fantastic, almost approaching, the style of a Sauvignon Blanc
Yes.
almost.
Very, I would, yes. Very Sauv Blanc-ish, very lean, but not in a bad way. I mean, it's focused, I think.
Right, and
The
still,
leanness is
even with that,
concentrated.
and it still has that little textural thing that I always get from Chenin. Although it's more reserved in this, that almost, some people will say lanolin or waxiness. It just kind of comes on right at the end, which is a really cool thing about this grape. It does give you a textural component every time, it seems, no matter who makes it or how sweet they make it or how dry they make it. It always comes through, which is, to me, why it's special. And
that waxy texture, though, is holding on to the minerality.
Yes.
And so it's like keeping it on your, that waxy texture is keeping the minerality on your palate and not washing it down. So it's residing after the taste, and it's special.
It's a nice clean finish, but as Chef alluded to, it's more of like a textural finish than a flavor finish, which I think is really cool in itself. So depending on what you're looking for, this wine checks a lot of boxes. It's got complexities, but it has a somewhat of a, what I would say, I don't know if simple. I don't want to say simple. It almost seems negative, but it is a simple finish. It's an easy finish, maybe might be the better way to say it. But it leaves you wanting more, and that's one of these. You've probably heard me say this before in other videos. I can't remember all the silly things that I say, but this is one of those wines that makes me keep reaching back for the glass.
Yes.
There's some wines you take a sip, you put it down, and then you're kind of, you're not haunted by it.
It's there. You keep talking, keep doing what you're doing. You're not distracted.
This one I just want to keep
Yeah.
tasting it. Tasting it. Like it
distracts
keeps
you.
calling me.
It distracts you from doing something else. You're like, I'm going to be paid attention to.
Right. And so we have.
It's like a puppy.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. And it's a cute puppy. But this is like Chef said, the minerality is absolutely stunning in this. It does to me taste very French.
Incredibly French.
I would say the exception would be or maybe the separation or the contrast, if you will. The fruit here tastes less what I would call. Sometimes I find that it becomes more tropical in nature at times in France, and this seems to be more on the underripe and kind of subdued fruit, where the minerality is really kicking in this, and I like it.
Yeah, this is much more like pear and I know this sounds ridiculous, but like white table grape. Pear kind of thing. More so than the pineapple, kiwi, mango that you can get from the French.
And of course, that's a generalization because there are wines just like this in France, but I don't know that. I mean, it's hard when you're comparing giant areas that have so many producers and saying this is their style, and we don't want to get caught up in boxing places in either. That's not fair to that place. I'm sure there's someone in Vouvray now talking like, these guys are crazy. What are they talking about? Our wines aren't like that. So, but you get the idea.
Well,
We're talking about general.
Crazy,
that is true.
But the caveat is we're not labeling anybody.
Yeah, we're not. We're just trying to make a point of comparison so that people understand, what makes places common and what makes them different. And these are not right or wrong situations. They're just situations. And
but
that's
it
great.
happens enough to where it's okay to have these discussions. We're not. Yeah. This isn't a podcast about Vouvray. This is just a casual comparison on a lot of the. If you drink, 80 Chenin Blancs from France and South Africa, you're probably going to find more than half with that characteristic, and that is a trend, and that is something worth mentioning, even though so-and-so over here may have very dry mineral water.
Chef, I got to tell you, as this kind of warms a bit, because we served it a little too cool, like we always do in America, and that's why I tell people when you buy bottles of wine, just don't put it in the chiller. Unless it's champagne, we want to keep that cool. But white wines, just leave them out and let the temperature come up a little bit. Because just now in my last sip, I got this wonderful finish of it's kind of blooming a little bit. You know, the body's getting a little more umptuous, I guess, because of the warmth. It's not quite as lean texturally, but then I got this beautiful kind of phenolic bitterness at the end. And I'm not saying it's like bitter, like, you know, like a bitter pill. It's not an unpleasant thing. It's just another layer of complexity.
Like a bite.
Yeah,
like
yeah, just a hint. Like, yeah, well, chef, when we were coming up in the 80s and the early 90s, you know, bitter greens and bitter salads, they were all the rage. You know, you just the endives and all that, and the radicchios. Yeah, and so these are things that as a chef you knew how to balance them out, and so you would get a little bitter from the greens, but you'd have like a beet vinaigrette or something that kind of balance it out, so you weren't just eating bitter. And I think that this is by design. These wineries, they particularly, I always get a little bit of that phenolic bitterness from Provence rosés. So they don't finish sweet. They finish with just a tinge, just a hair of bitter, which makes them great food wines, in my opinion. That's probably why I keep coming back and tasting this wine over and over, is because that little bitter leaves me like wanting more to kind of wash it.
Bringing you back, just like the rosés. I mean, I think that's probably trademark of a lot of fine French rosés.
Nobody has a half-empty bottle of rosé. When you open it, you drink it all because it just like...
Not when we're in.
No. Yeah, we better guard your rosé.
Walk by somebody with a half it, I'll take that.
Yeah. If you're not going to drink it.
What are you going to do?
Chef, what are we going to pair with this? What do you think? You got some ideas?
Oh, God. I got some stunning East Coast, Northeast Coast swordfish. And
nice.
Yeah, I was going to do a little heirloom tomato and caper watercress relish to go with that. I think that'd be delicious.
Wow. Yeah.
I think the caper, the richness of the heirloom, I think that's going to be a really nice touch with the swordfish.
Absolutely. And just so you know that this wine will pair great with probably any seafood you can think of. And it would probably also great with any, salad type things, and like that little Mediterranean style thing you're talking about. I think it's going to be fantastic.
Made a salad yesterday for did some of those local greens from Greenhouse Towers, and some ham and blueberry goat cheese, almonds and apple. It was delicious. Chenin would have been excellent with that.
I don't doubt that at all.
Would have been excellent with that. So it's an easy ride on this. You can feel confident pairing it with a lot of light summertime fare. Should be perfect. That's a good looking bottle. Not very modern. I love the old school label on that. It's very
we're going to move on
artistic
to our next one, and I really hope y'all are enjoying that Raats. It's absolutely wonderful. I dig it, and I hope you do too. But I could be somewhat biased because I don't really pour wines I don't like. So I already like it.
The research has been put in.
All right, Scalette Chianti Classico. A little glare on there. I'm just trying to find an angle where you can see it. But anywho, this is one of the famous Black Rooster wines, Chianti Classico. And that little, maybe that'll show up without the glare. This is the hallmark of this region. And right there in smack dab in Tuscany, of course, that means Sangiovese, right? Sangiovese is the grape. And oftentimes it can be some additional small percentages added, but I feel like the more modern wine productions, they don't really need to. I think that some Sangioveses can be quite a bear to drink early, and the addition of a juicier blended grape in can help that make it more obtainable early. Anywho, this noble grape of Sangiovese, also Montepulciano, the Brunellos rather, di Montepulciano are some of the most famous, along with Chianti Classico, are some of the most famous Sangioveses in the world, and rightfully so. Of course, we also have the Super Tuscan regions that are there as well that can utilize it in blends, but they can also be 100% just not in one of the regions that that they have requirements that you have to be in a certain place to put a certain label on. There's a lot of laws in place regionally in Italy to help the consumer know what they're buying, and that's a great thing. And then there's also the Super Tuscan blends where they can, it's more like California or basically the whole United States, so you can just grow and do whatever you want, which is great for the winemaker, but not always. Sometimes it can be difficult for consumers to know, well, I mean, what is this? I don't know what it is. What can I expect from this wine? When you see the Black Rooster on a bottle, you're going to have expectations, because this is, even though there's so many different producers of this wine, you know what to expect. A, quality. B, Sangiovese, or vice versa. I mean, however you want to put it, but those are very important things to know. So when you're trying to pair a delicious Italian wine with the dinner you're making for your parents or your family, you pick the right wine.
You've done a good job, and you should have some confidence in that. And I think that's what, like you were saying, it is there to give the consumer confidence that this is what you think it is, and this is a value for the money.
Well, I tell you what, I'm really looking forward to drinking this, but I can't get past the nose. I just keep sticking my nose in.
I've already had a sip. I can't wait for you to drink it again.
The nose is brilliant.
This is really nice. This is a very elegant wine.
There's such a beautiful florality and red fruit and kind of old world,
very elegant.
old timey potpourri kind of stuff on the nose, and then on the palate coming through, a really luscious drink here. This isn't as lean as I thought.
No,
the first time I had it
was, and now it is just really opening up.
The first sip the first time I tasted this, I remember it, or at least in my notes, and it could have been the progression of what I was tasting. I was tasting several wines, of course. There was it felt more lean. This has really got more body to it than I remember, this is a good thing, I guess. I mean, it's not a bad thing. It's just an observation. In the glass, it looks a little bit dark for a Sangiovese. So there certainly is a possibility there could be an additional grape in there. Not that it matters, because this tastes like Sangiovese, and that's really the key here. It tastes like Sangiovese should and could, and I'm happy it does.
This is just outrageous. I'm so pleased with this, and it's funny too. The wine matches the bottle. I mean, this tastes like what came out of the
right. Yeah.
Sometimes like you have this.
Yeah.
Whatever. It could be a really formal label or a real artsy label. Sometimes the wines don't match. The styles of the wine don't match the marketing or whatever. Mm-hmm. This does.
This is absolutely delicious.
It's like this is like a label you would, your old uncle up in the hills, who's been farming his whole life. That's the kind of label he would want, and this is the kind of wine that he would make. I mean, this is really delicious.
So this wine is really, when I drink it, I want to analyze. I want to think about it. It really has many stages that it goes through the palate, I would say. It's a big burst of fruit on the front, and then I get the reinforcement of florality, almost. I want to say rose, but it's not rose. It's something in that family, something in that kind of not necessarily a rose, but in that spectrum of scents, that you get from that. I have a hard time describing flowers, and I apologize, but it's not a fruit flower. It's more of a perfume flower, I guess.
I get a lot of hibiscus. I get almost tea leaves, not the ground tea, but the leaf, like a bay leaf.
Oh yeah,
like a laurel.
Yeah,
in there.
Yeah, laurel. That's a great call. So, and I've obviously bay leaf. I've got some lamb ossobuco rolling at the house right now, and I've got I
nice.
got bay leaves in it this
Nice.
morning before I came to work, and
Very nice.
yeah, so that really hit home right there. That was a great description, Chef. So we have some spice, some floral spice here, red fruits, great mouthfeel, and this was completely done with no oak, all concrete, and it absolutely does not need oak because the tannins here are so sneaky, but they build. I mean, these grape tannins are very fine, and I am very parched right now. This wine.
It's just drying you up.
Yeah, and so that tells me that this would be a great food wine. Would you agree?
I
Because
could not agree
it's
more.
like because like if you have like a something food wise, your palate's just like ready for something to hit it.
Yes,
It's like you've primed it.
it's outstanding.
Well, what do you think you want to pair with this
Well, we got a
Scalette?
nice return. I've taken a little break from duck, but got some beautiful duck back in. So doing the gorgeous duck, I'm gonna bloom some dried cranberries with some balsamic and red wine.
Ooh,
A little bit
yeah.
of butternut squash from Minglewood.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all working.
Oh, wow, that'd be great, Chef. Yeah, I saw a
That's what I'd want with this.
ton of stuff coming in the back door today from our farmers.
A lot of stuff today. I'm really hoping for a big, successful weekend. I've certainly done my part. Just need people to come out
Mhm.
and get it.
I went down and visited Dad, and he loaded my truck up with all kinds
God, it's amazing.
of produce, butternut squash, spaghetti squash, sweet potatoes, all
Peppers.
kinds of cool peppers. Those Italian red peppers that are kind of like habaneros. They're not quite that hot, but they are flavorful like a habanero. Banana peppers, jalapenos. Just an abundance. And of course the blueberries that I picked.
Blueberries, and then you had plants. You had
Oh, yeah.
butternut. I mean, it's just
Seeds. I got
yeah.
seeds for next year. So Dad is always good about getting me loaded up with all those tasty things that we love. And so I'll be eating well per usual. So I'm either eating well at home or eating well with you, Chef.
Life's good.
Mm-hmm.
Life's good.
Well, for those of you that haven't done the Chef's Table lunch, you should definitely consider that. It's a 3-course meal, and it's not a huge involvement, and you can be home in the daylight hours. It's a great way to introduce yourself to wine pairing as a meal, and it'll give you the confidence and the knowledge to make great decisions on
Yeah.
your wine and food at home. And that's it's not about necessarily being right or wrong. It's just finding flavor profiles you like together. And if you come here and experience a wine and food together that you really like, then you can try that again on your own.
And you always learn something. I always think about it as like a really top-notch musician. They don't listen to Baroque classical. They listen to jazz. They listen to New Age. Listen to R&B. There's something that, those top musicians listen to everything because they're always learning, trying to add something to their repertoire, let it open up something in their writing because, you're never going to get that staying in the same place.
Yeah, being somewhat
same style or
set
genre.
in your
Right.
way kind of
Now,
thing.
you may become overly accomplished in that certain style or genre, but you're not going to grow. And it's kind of the same thing with your palate.
Sure.
You've got to get outside and just
Yeah.
test your palate and expand your repertoire, and that's how you grow.
Well, that's why I was drinking peach moonshine the other night, Chef. Trying to expand my palate.
That's how I respect you more and more every day of your life.
Right. Yeah. So well, that was 2 nights ago. Then last night, got into some Japanese whiskey from Suntory, and then got into some Japanese beers, and then got into some beautiful Scotch, 10-year Macallan.
Wow.
So it was just
What a ride.
But you know what? I won't do that tonight.
No.
But I don't do the same thing.
Well, you'll need to.
I don't do the same thing night after night because
I sure hope
there's
you're-
too much deliciousness out there.
Well, and if you've got lamb ossobuco braising for 6 hours, I'm sure you've got a gem picked out to go with that.
There might be some red wine involved. But you know what?
Probably not going to be just any red wine.
What do you have on tap at your house, Chef? I know you got a
A
kegerator.
hazy, yeah. Got a hazy summer haze.
How much is in that?
Not much,
Hmm.
maybe. You and I put a hurting on that.
Yeah, I was thinking about swinging by and finishing that
Why
up.
don't you?
See, I hate for you to have beer just laying around.
It'll go stale.
Yeah.
How are you going to live with that on your conscience?
I gotta tell you, it's really cool, living in the same town as your best friend a mile away, because you can just go over and drink his beer whenever you want.
Yesterday, I just swung by his house. And we drank some beer in the yard. Talked about flowers. And later in the day, he'll swing by and see the girls and see his goddaughters. Well, one of them's here working. You'll get to see your other girls. And you'll help me replenish that.
Do I have to move any furniture or anything?
Don't worry about that. You ask a lot of questions. You want to be
Well, first of all, you got to get through the key here when you go to Chris' house. You got to get through the security.
The gauntlet.
Because it's super dangerous.
It is.
I'm just telling you.
You got to wrap your ankles.
Yeah, those dogs are trained killers.
No ankle is safe. And you better not smell like chicken.
Oh yeah.
Or bacon.
Yeah.
Or squirrel. They'll rip you to pieces.
Yeah. Well, we really do appreciate all the support that we get, and not just watching our video, which we do appreciate, and we want you to share and like and all that, subscribe, and everything you can do to help us get the word out about delicious wines, and to support these producers for the great work that they're doing, making delicious wines at affordable prices as well. I want to add, that's another bonus. But the main thing is they're delicious. They're delicious, and we don't get fixated on price on these videos. We get fixated on taste. These producers produce delicious wines, and oh, by the way, you can afford them. So that is important to us. But we appreciate the support of choosing us to buy wines from, not just from our winery, the wines that we make, but coming to us to get your California Cabs or your French Chateauneufs or whatever it might be. We appreciate that support as well. And of course, anytime you can come to the restaurant, we like that a lot. And because we get to see your smiling face.
Love it. Makes our day.
But we are restaurant people. That's what we do. And when I say people is what restaurants are.
It is. It's not the building. It's the people.
Yeah. And so we're very fortunate.
Although this building has a ton of character.
It sure does. It has, you can't balance anything because there's not a level floor in here.
That's cool.
Yeah. So you got to kind of walk crook-legged.
Gives it character.
But we would love to see you when we can, and we'd love to serve you when we can. We've got a great staff here. It's really gelling. We've had all of our new hires have now been here a couple months, and things are just going really well.
They are. They're molding. They're learning. They're becoming part of the family. The customers are becoming their customers. It's great. It's a great progression.
And we will continue looking for delicious items to share with you, like great cheeses and great salamis and great wines. And so keep us in mind for any of your food needs as well. Chef's always happy to put together anything you need if it's within his abilities. And just think of us as a market as well.
Our motto: if we have it, we'll do it.
All right. Well, Chef, until next time, we'll catch you on the flip side. It'll be another great Thursday night tasting.
Thank you.
See ya.